How do I, oh, here it is. Okay, good. Super. Excellent. Maria, do I start? Are we on? Lise, quand tu regardes, est-ce que tu vois toute la slide ou tu vois une partie de la slide? Est-ce que tu vois tout?
Oui, quasiment
tout.
Non, mais est-ce que tu vois aussi d'autres choses? Tu vois les autres écrans ou
Non, pas.
Good afternoon to all. I hope you're doing well. Lise Yacoub and myself are very happy to be with you for the next hour. I've been working with Liz, who is the founder and managing director of MAD. She will be presenting after my presentation to give you a real-life exposure of what does it take for a successful Lebanese and French SME to be able to raise funds with business angels. So I would be interested, the topic today is really about business angels. As you know, the country is going through some very severe crisis, both from a financial, economic, and political, and not to mention the impact on social crisis. And this, our fears are very high that this could exacerbate in the future, and hence the importance of coming up with a solid program to support small, medium-sized enterprises in the country, and also with a focus on social enterprise. So not only SMEs, but also social enterprises who are here to be able to address the needs of what we call the BOP, which is the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramids are the people living underneath the poverty line. In Lebanon, unfortunately, we're now talking of 50% of the population being under the BOP, and we're looking at potentially this increasing to 70% and putting us at par with a number of sub-Saharan African countries that are in this level, which is unheard of for Lebanon, unheard of for Lebanese entrepreneurs. And so what we'll do is we'll cover, now an hour is a very short period of time. I'll speak for about half an hour. Liz will speak for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll take your questions for the remaining 15 minutes. So the topic is, the title, as you see, is Business Angels and SME Funding as a Catalyst for Change in the Lebanese Crisis. All of you will have a copy of the recording. All of you will also have a copy of the slides. I want to thank B.O.T. for inviting both Liz and myself. I know that this is part of a number of webinars that they are organizing, and they will be sharing with you the recording. They will be sharing with you the slides, so you don't need to take pictures or take notes of it. This will be available. Most importantly, as you see on the title, I'm an investment advisor at Berytech. I'm also sitting on the board of the investment committee of Berytech Fund 1 and Fund 2. But I'm also personally an investor. I invest personally, and I also am I'm a board advisor to a number of companies. So if any of you is interested in reviewing some of the templates that I'll be sharing with you, be happy to do this on a one-to-one basis. I will write on the chat box my name. I'll also write my WhatsApp detail. Feel free to contact me. Feel free also, if you want me to add you to the distribution list. I do these webinars on a regular basis. Actually, this afternoon, I'm having another one from 5 to 7 on crisis management, and this is for the Rassemblement des chefs d'entreprise in Lebanon. So feel free. So the webinar is one element. If you want to discuss your specific case, I'll be happy to take those. One day a week I dedicated to a number of companies that want to have these one-on-one sessions, and I've been doing it for the past years. So let me now start with the essence. What are we trying to address in terms of questions? One is I'm going to focus on business angels, but I'm also going to focus on social enterprises. So I'll share with you the definition of a social enterprise. What is it? What is the role of social enterprises and small medium-sized enterprises in times of crisis? What are the challenges facing social enterprises and small medium-sized enterprises? How can business angels help? And I will discuss the case of Cedar. I'm a member and a shareholder of Cedars. I've been there for the founding one, which is Cedars Fund 1. I'm here, we are now in our fourth fund, which is Cedar Fund 4. And I will share with you what we have been doing, what is the track record so far. So during these moments of crisis, we are continuing to fund. As of yesterday, we have managed to raise $200,000 for one company called Clean2O, $100,000 from Cedars, another $100,000 from a business angel that might be present during our discussion today. So what I'm saying is that there is funds available. You need to get a good idea, package well, make sure that you have traction, and business angels are here to help either on a one-to-one basis or as part of Cedars or as part of other business angel association that would be taking place. I will share with you quickly the different phases in terms of if you are considering raising funds, what are the phases that you need to be aware of. We are here to help you understand each of these elements. Liz have gone through it a couple of times already. She's fully briefed on it, and we as Berytech and the community is here to help you in terms of understanding these steps that you need to do. And how do you go about selecting the best funding sources for you? There are several funding sources, believe it or not, during the crisis, and there'll be even more coming in because of the crisis, because it's critical to make sure that we do not let go of small, medium-sized enterprises in Lebanon and also in the region. Are they the pillar of the economy? So this is what we'll be covering on this. Now, what is the, I'm starting with this quote, and I think it's very valid for Lebanon today. Poverty is the worst form of violence, and you see it every day. As I walk to the office and I walk back, I see it every day like I have never seen it before. In Lebanon. Lebanon's journey to salvation would come from the partnership between the wisdom of its rural people, because I do hikes every single Sunday across all the mountains in Lebanon. We were with a few friends, we were in the Baruch Cedars, and then we went down to for about 7 hours, beautiful ride. So the wisdom of its rural people and the passion and skill set of its social entrepreneurs. You're going to hear Liz speak. Liz is very passionate about what she does, very passionate about her venture, very passionate about the team that she has and about the opportunities facing her. And I think this combination between the wisdom of the rural people, the wisdom of these social entrepreneurs, and of these passionate entrepreneurs is the combination that will be one element in terms of addressing the poverty gap that we have in the country. So let me now start with the, I don't want to take too much time. What is a social enterprise? Today in Lebanon, we still don't have a legal definition behind it, but the social enterprise main purpose is to promote, encourage, and make social changes in a financially sustainable way. So summarize it. Promote, encourage, and make social changes. So we're going to measure you on your social impact. How many people are you impacting? Farmers, youth, women, etc. on it, and do it in a financially sustainable way. So you're not an NGO. We're focusing on organizations that are sustainable financially, and then we could help them scale. So this is quite important for you to understand. So they provide income generation opportunities that meet the basic needs of people who live in poverty. Very important for you to get the this connotation. Where do they stand? It's a bit of a short, but it's in between, if you want, on one side, charity organization, and we have thousands of these charity and organizations in Lebanon. You probably have about 200 active ones, and on the other side, you have for-profit companies. Their driver is financial value creation. On the charity side, their value is social value creation. A social enterprise is in between the two. So it is a for-profit company, but focusing on making a social impact. And you do it through the people, you do it through the profit that you generate and how you use it, and of course, what is the community and the contribution to the planet. So keep this in mind. This is the focus. And why is this important? Because in the years to come, If you want to address poverty level in Lebanon, it is social enterprise that are going to make the big difference. This is where we're going to have more focus. This is where we're going to have more companies being created. This is where we're going to have more funding coming in from different sources, not only in Lebanon, coming from abroad, and I'll be sharing more information on this in the future. So feel free to come back. We are also lobbying as Berytech and other institutions like the Lebanese Social Enterprise Association, created by several friends, Al-Fanar and others, in order to be able to lobby for having the social enterprise accepted legally in Lebanon with related benefits from a tax perspective, from a legal perspective, from creating the companies, facilitating the creation of the company perspective. I don't want to spend too much time on the social impact. I think you all understood it. It's really addressing the needs, what I call the BOP, which are the disadvantaged communities. And these are increasing every single day as we go through this crisis. And as the government, unfortunately, is not in a measure to implement the reforms, it will not be in a measure to be able to get the IMF funding, and we will find ourselves in an even much greater crisis on it, and a failure of our governance today in terms of political governance. And this will increase the need for having social enterprises to address the needs of the people who need it, the disadvantaged community. So what is the role? The role is simple, and some of you have seen the slides. Today we're talking about a level of poverty of more than 50%. We are also talking about decaying infrastructure, water, electricity, waste management. We're also looking at high level of youth unemployment. 35%, actually it's 40% now, of our youth being unemployed. Unacceptable. We're looking at a huge brain drain. A number of young people, talented people, are fed up with what is happening in Lebanon, are fed up with the political system, and are looking at ways to be able to exit the country. A country that loses its talents is a country that is facing a pretty difficult path moving forward. We also have pollution in terms of our water, the air, and the coastline, the depletion of our grazing areas, the wood and forest resources, and most importantly, and fundamentally at the center of it, is the lack of government and banking support for SMEs, and the lack of governance, true governance that is from a political perspective, it's from a banking perspective, in terms of transparency, accountability, and being able to ensure that we have the right competencies in order to implement these reforms. So what is a social enterprise? The role of social enterprises is to address these gaps. So these gaps from a women empowerment, from a youth unemployment, from a level of poverty, all these elements that are today a cancer to the Lebanese society, you need social enterprises to be able to address it. We are helping, we are securing, and we are identifying a number of them and moving forward to be able to help them be successful. So this is in terms of the role behind it. What are the challenges? I don't want to take too much time on these challenges. I'm going to go quickly on it. You basically have, I put them in categories. And this is not only for social enterprise, this is for small, medium-sized enterprises. And you will be able to ask Liz about it. Access to funding is a #1 challenge. It's extremely frustrating to be able to get funding, especially for banks. Banks have stopped funding already more than 8 months ago on it. Access to talents. People are leaving. The good people are leaving this country. How do I retain my employees, the good employees that I want to retain in moments of crisis? Access to markets. How do I help export my product and my services overseas? What help do I need? What certification do I need to be able to create new market opportunities for me? This is quite important to have. Access to technology. How do I differentiate myself? How do I use technology as a driver for differentiating my value proposition? When Liz is talking, it's a great team behind it. She has a great idea, but at the core of it, if you look at where her investments are going, they're going into making sure that her platform is best of in class type of platform. So this is quite important, to use technology as a way to differentiate you and understand and address the needs of your customers. The one is access to advisory services. People today in crisis, what do they feel? They feel they want to hide. They feel that they don't want to discuss their problem with anyone because they don't. But this is the last thing that you need to do. This is the time to reach out. This is the time to be open about your problem. And this is the time to reach out to people who have been there. And trust my white hair, I've been working for the past 40 years. And trust me, I've gone through a number of crises in my life. I was in Asia Pacific when you had the financial crisis back in the late 90s. I was in Europe when we had the dot-com, and I was the head of financial services for Hewlett-Packard, where we funded hundreds of technology companies and startups, and we had a major crisis, and some of you might not even remember that we had. So crisis is how you get to learn yourself, and how you learn about resilience, and how you learn about rediscovering and changing a bit your value system. So what you need for this is you need to have people who have gone through it, who have been through it, and who could help you take a step back, reflect on what you have done, reflect on the opportunities ahead of you, and help you reflect on what are the key challenges that you need to implement. Lastly is access to best practices and network. You need a network, and more than ever during times of crisis where you need it. And of course, the access to clear social impact milestones, and a number of organizations like 3QA, like Alphanar are here to help you put these elements together. Okay, let me continue on it. I do speak a bit fast. Now I focus on the core, business angel. So what is a business angel? A business angel is a person like myself, interested in wanting to keep in touch. I'm going to be 64 in a couple of months. I have been in this business funding organization for the past 35 years in my life. On it, being it as the head of HP Financial Services, or the CEO of El Ghureri Investments, or working with Stanford Business School seed program in both East and West Africa, helping companies raise funds and prepare themselves to raise funds. This is a business angel. So it's somebody who has the time, who has the passion to make a difference, who has the money that he would like or she would like to put in the service, instead of letting your money wait for a bail-in or a bail-out in your banks. Take your money and make use of them in a productive way to do it. And a number of companies, SMEs in Lebanon, are in the process of raising funds. I've just listing the, over the past 3 months, despite the crisis, we had a number of companies. MAD is one of them. Clean2O is another one. They raised $250,000. We have CCHO has raised more than $250,000. We have Optique Vision, who has also raised $210,000. So you have all these companies we worked with, we collaborated with, we helped them package themselves, and despite all the crises that we have, we help them raise debt or equity funding behind it. We have other examples like Biomass going through the same process, Compost Baladi going through the same process. All of them I've been working closely with and associated with, and trying to see how best to help them move ahead on this journey. So they invest their money at early phases. This is a business angel. At early phases in the new venture, they invest their time to mentor and coach the founder. They are experienced entrepreneurs. They went through the pains and the gains of being an entrepreneur. They have the emotional fiber. If you don't have the emotional fiber, MSME is micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And in Lebanon, we have more than 40,000 of those registered. 97% of the companies registered in the companies are MSMEs that you have in it. And most of them would need help of a business angel in terms of funding, but if it's not funding, in terms of advisory services. And lastly, they have access to a broad network of stakeholders, including customers, including suppliers, including investors and advisors. This is what a business angel is, and a number of you might recognize yourself as a business angel, and if you're interested, we'll be happy to talk to you. So what do we do in terms of business angels? We have created the Lebanese Women Angel Fund together with Cedar. These are people of the profile that I shared with you. We meet every 6 weeks. We've been doing this for the past 4 years. And what we do is we help companies come pitch, prepare, and hopefully receive funding. The funding is between $100,000 to $300,000. Our friend Liz, who will be talking in a few minutes, will share with you her experience. She went through the process, raised fund with Cedars, raised fund also with IAM Capital, and with other business angels behind it. So what is this fund? This fund is here to be able to help identify so we are a group of business angels, We are ex-entrepreneurs, active executives and professionals. We could be retired or semi-retired in this case, and we come up and we each one of them put out a certain amount of money. This creates a fund. It's a pool of money. This is matched by IM Capital. It is matched by USAID. And in case every single one of our investments goes wrong, we have a safety net. 50% of your investment is protected no matter what is going to happen to these companies. And what we're trying to do is to invest in companies that have a promising business, invest in companies that are women-led. We want to make sure that 50% of these companies, like in the case of Liz and the case of MAD, these are women-led organizations. We meet every 6 weeks. We review these different companies. We decide whether we want to proceed with them in terms of due diligence. We take 6 to 8 weeks to complete the due diligence, and then we come up and we sign the shareholder agreement with these companies. We've been doing this for 4 years. We have a track record behind us, and these are amounts. Any one of you could join Cedar. If you're interested, feel free to come back to me. I will communicate also my contact details to make sure that you do this, and we will train you on how you become a business angel. We will train you on how you do due diligence. We will train you about how you come and decide on the valuation of the company. We'll train you how to negotiate a term sheet. So all this will be part of your participation to the Cedar Group. So what do we, where are we in terms of Cedar? You have if you want, all companies go through this process. You could start with the FFF, which is the founder, the family, the friends. You could add another F, which is the fools that are crazy enough to trust you and to trust your ideas because they believe in you and they believe in your passion and they want to encourage you. You then move to some seed funding that you might get, and then you have this big gap. The seed funding, you typically get it from acceleration program. And we have a number of those in Lebanon. Berytech has Agritech, they have Clean Tech, they have Impact Rise, we have Speed. We have a number of these accelerators, 3 to 6 months in timing, about $30,000 to $50,000 in terms of grant funding or equity funding. But then afterwards, what do you do? To get to VCs, you need to have at least $500,000 in terms of requirements. So in between the 50K to the 500K is a gap. And most companies that go through accelerator fail. Why? Because there is no money available. And this is where the business angels come in. And this is why Cedars come in. And I'll bet you there will be more Cedars coming in Lebanon and in the region as business angels wants to help and wants to contribute. Either business angels in Lebanon or business angels belonging to the expatriates and the diaspora across the world that have the money, that have the needs, that have the experience, that have the network, and they are interested in being able to support these companies. So this is where the Cedars fit in terms of the gap. So what is the process? We have a first contact. There is a screening and pre-selection. We train you on all these things. The companies come and pre-pitch. Then there is the final pitch of the company on week 6. Then we have the due diligence process for typically 6 weeks. Then we have a vote whether yes or no we go ahead. And afterwards we have the disbursement. And the final stage is to have what we call a deal manager appointed to represent Cedars on the board of the company. So in, for instance, the case of Liz, Cedars asked me to be the one that is the lead deal manager for MAD. And I've been working with her and her two co-founders over the past 2 to 3 years that we've been working together. And it's important because you need to have someone to protect the interest that you have, and at the same time someone that can add value, opening doors. Liz is coming at the end of the month. She's in the process of raising more funds, so if any of you are interested after her pitch, feel free also to contact her on it. She will be here for 5 weeks, and she's meeting with a number of investors who are interested in talking to her. So this is part of the process of the deal manager, is to be able to facilitate these discussions on it. Okay, so this is what we have. So the pitch, we typically have 10 minutes. These are the typical covers in a pitch deck. You have a summary, what is the problem that you're facing, the competition, how much of a social impact you're making, how scalable is your business model, what are your financial projections, etc. So these are the points, and then we're going to have a list of questions, and this is how we go, and then decide whether or not we want to continue with this company or not. We will happy to provide all these slides, as I said. So this is another example. This is another example. Here it's Impact Rise, 15 ventures. This was launched at the beginning of this year, in the middle of the crisis. We launched it. 15 impact ventures. We selected 15 impact coaches and 15 impact mentors. We trained the coaches, we trained the mentors, and we have this working for a period of 2 years. providing capacity building to these companies. These are Lebanese companies focusing on the social impact, one of the elements that I've shown you on it. So this is quite important. This is another program coming in and providing funding for the impact ventures and providing opportunities to the coaches and to the mentors to contribute to our Lebanese ecosystem and to contribute to these social enterprises. So this is a number of benefits. We have customized business support, networking, access to market, voucher. We also provide money for these companies. This is small amount of money to cover some of the expenses that they need on it. Other benefits is access to the Berytech ecosystem. Berytech has we launched, for instance, a hackathon. This was last weekend, 4 days. We identified a number of companies. These companies have pitched. Out of those, we're probably going to be selecting 20. These 20s will go through our accelerator program that will be launched in a couple of months. This accelerator program is 12 months. So we start from ideathon, hackathon, move to accelerators. From accelerators, move to the business angels. From the business angels, move to the VC fund. I'm sitting on the investment committee of Berytech Fund 1, launched 12 years ago, the first VC fund in Lebanon. I'm sitting also on the investment committee of Berytech Fund 2. This is a much larger fund for about $50 to $60 million, where we have invested in each one of them in about 18 companies, not to mention all the investment that we have done in the companies going through our accelerate program or the companies gone through seeders. So this is all examples of, in this case, we have 3 tracks. We have scaling social ventures. We have training of social impact coaches. This was what took place during the months of January to the months of May. So in the middle of the Thawra, in the middle of the crisis, we have launched this. We got the funding for it, and it's being supported in this case by money coming overseas. So what I'm saying is that there are good news for Lebanese entrepreneurs, for head of social enterprises, and for head of small, medium-sized enterprises. What are the different phases? I don't want to take too much time. A number of you have seen the slides. I'm happy to sit down with you if you're interested in raising fund with your small, medium-sized company. And typically you have 12 phases. These phases go from trying to understand what are the key problems that you're facing, to the last phase, which is making sure that I understand also the key risk and mitigation plan that you have in place. Now we take you through putting together your business plan, putting together your business model canvas, making sure that your financial projections make sense, making sure that the money that you need is realistic. Where is it going to be used? How much money do you need? Making sure that we know what are the different sources of capital. Is it debt you're looking for? Is it convertible debt? Is it equity? Looking at the valuation of your company in case you're going for convertible debt or equity. How do you select your right investment partner? It's a marriage. You need to make sure that you have the right person. How do you go about doing your due diligence, being prepared for it so as not to send the wrong vibe? How do you go about negotiating the term sheet to make sure that you're not taking for a ride? So all these steps are steps that take time, that take knowledge, that take understanding, and we're here to support you, and we have been taking all the 150 companies that we have been funding for the past 10 years through these different phases. Okay, so this is quite important. I don't want to spend more time. The gap analysis, this is an article I've published. I show it again and again in all my presentation. These are the questions that you need to be asking yourself if you're heading your company, being it a social enterprise or not. Are you aligned and are you clear on each of these 12 M's? And if you're not clear, what do you need to do to be better clear? What do you need to do to be top-notch? Because if I'm an investor, these are the questions I'll be asking you. This is where I'll be digging in. Whether I understand your shared mission. Do you really address a real pain point or not? Do you have a competitive differentiator? What is it? Is it sustainable? Is it the same today that it will be in 3 years down the road? Do you have a complete team? Do you have clear metrics? Are you tracking those metrics? Do you have clear milestones? All these elements, if you don't have them, rate yourself on it, rate your company on it, and then come up with correction item on each one of them. And if you want to share them with me, come back and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Okay, so this is, let me close by stating another one, which is humanity's greatest advantage are not in its innovative discovery. Although innovation is important, and unfortunately in Lebanon, we're not great in terms of coming up with innovation, and we need to be much better at it if we look at our neighbors across the region, but in how these discoveries are applied to reduce poverty and inequality. And as long as we have this gap between those who have and those who have not, and this gap unfortunately in Lebanon is increasing, The middle class is disappearing. So we have more and more people under the poverty line, and we have a lot of people belonging to the upper class that have maybe, I don't know, 1% of the population, representing more than 70% of the wealth of the country. The more this gap is widening, the more we need to be concerned about how best to address it. And hopefully my talk, and then you're going to hear Liz, is here to be able to address this issue. So this is the funding sources. I won't discuss them. You have different funding sources available in Lebanon. Happy to take them on a one-to-one basis with you. You have a list here of the different providers. Some of them are more active than others, from microloan to debt funding to small cap equity to medium cap equity to crowdfunding that you have in Lebanon behind. You also have different initiatives. 331 for the moment is frozen, but you have others that may have stopped, but I'll bet you they will continue. And they will continue, and other funding sources will be available. I'm fairly aware because we're tracking and we're very close to the donors, understanding their needs, and they want to focus on a few key areas. Agriculture is one of them. Women empowerment is one of them. The below the pyramid, i.e. the poverty, is another one. Youth unemployment is one of them. Encouraging tourism is one of them. Encourage export for the industries to export is one of them. Encouraging to strengthen the municipalities is one of them. Encouraging the foundation for NGOs is one of them. For each one of those, there's going to be tens of millions of dollars coming into this country to be able to address these needs. So if you are well prepared through this investment readiness, you will be in a better position to be able to get a recipient of these funds coming in. So what are the key takeaways? Social enterprise will play a critical role. And they play a critical role today, and they'll play an even more critical role in 3 to 5 years down the road. There is large funding sources that are available. And there are specific segments that I've mentioned that is quite important. But it's also important for social enterprise and small, medium-sized enterprises is to be able to set the foundation for raising capital. If you don't have your foundation, get yourself an advisor to help you. And we have a number of advisors here to be able to help you. We trained dozens of them during a program between Berytech and USG back in Q4 of 2019 behind. So this is quite important. Liz is at the same time an entrepreneur, but she is at the same time a business advisor here to help and helping a number of companies. And we have several active players in this system, and there's going to be more active players. Unfortunately, not enough from the government, unfortunately, not enough from the banks, but we are going to manage on developing through the Lebanese social enterprise system. We have business angels, we have advisors, we have accelerators being present behind it. We have the LSC Association, and we have other institutions like Al-Fanar and like others who are here to provide support and financial support to these social enterprises. And my last comment before I pass to Liz is we rise by lifting others. So look around you. Don't look at yourself and your own problem. Look at how you could help others solve their problem, and especially if those people are people that are going towards the BOP part of the pyramid. So the more you do this, the more you're able to contribute. These webinars is one way. The one-on-one session is the other way. The funding that we do is another way. The community that we're creating is another way. So you have a role to play in it, either as the owner or the future owner of a small, medium-sized enterprise, or if you want to be an advisor, feel free to reach out. I'm going to write my contact detail as Liz is speaking. Feel free to reach out to me. If you want to be on my distribution list in terms of future events, I do a number of those. At 5 o'clock, I'll be with others for 2 hours on crisis management. I'll be happy to include you. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry if I feel a bit too passionate. I think you understand why, because we are in a period of fundamental changes to our country, and we need to build a sound and healthy foundation. If we don't, it's going to be the end of our country. And this will be a worse thing for me to do. So I want to thank you for your patience. Thank you. We will take questions, Liz and I, after Liz's presentation. Thank you. Liz?
Thank you.
Liz will be preparing, and she will remove my slides and replace it by her slides. So let me introduce Liz while she's doing the work. I got to know Liz 3 years ago. She and her sister Rima and Bruno were the co-founder of MAD. This is an innovative platform. You will see and you'll hear it from her. She approached, here it is. So you have it. This is the BOT. Liz, you share. This is great. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Constantin. As Constantin mentioned, he's one of our advisors, and he's been following us for 2 years already. We're very happy to have him. We're a European marketplace based in France and in Lebanon. We started 3 years ago. And what we do is we connect and match artists with advertisers and millennials. Now, very quickly, sorry. In terms, the reason why those three key players like us so much is because we help them a lot. We help, first of all, artists to live from their passion. So basically, we help them bring their projects to life. We help advertisers to launch powerful and very engaging marketing campaigns targeting millennials. And, well, youth like our content. They have fun watching and voting for our artists, and they discover artists throughout the year. So far, we have over 10,000 users. We have a syndicated community of 5 million. We have over 1,000 artists and 60 partnering brands. Again, we're based in France and Lebanon. And we're, despite the crisis, I'm going to say, we continue to grow, and we're targeting to reach $6 million by end of 2025. We've also been, Constantin talked about incubators. We've also been incubated, not in Lebanon, but in France. And we've had several recognitions in terms of media recognitions, but also we've been selected by the French Tech to represent France in several key worldwide industry events like South by Southwest. And today our main investors are IM Capital, ISME, so the equity arm of Kafalat, and Cedars that Constantin mentioned earlier. Now, when talking about fundraising, regarding us, the three founders of MAD, very early when we had the idea of this venture, we knew it was very ambitious, but at the same time, we, in terms of assets that we had an innovative platform. We were clearly, we had a first mover's advantage in a very, very large market. We knew we were going to our model and so for that we went to fundraise as soon as we had the idea. Now, probably all know that we can do good, bad, and so obviously you need to have, and for that you're looking for very quickly. What we did is round fund. The first one in 2017 went the year after. A total of 400K. First with individual angels, but also with IM Capital, and actually it was IM Capital who had us to Cedars business development.
I'm going to stop. There is an echo in the voice. Maria, if you're on the call, how can we fix it? Or Charbel. So there is an echo in the voice, so we don't hear Liz very well. Can we correct this?
Okay, so as I was saying, not only did we fundraise in 2017 and 18, but we're also, for our growth, fundraising now. So we're fundraising for 360K to launch the new generation of our platform, to continue producing new content and acquiring new markets. And based on our experience those past 3 years, we've learned a lot, obviously. First of all, most important learning is you're always fundraising, really, because the best time to fundraise is when you don't need it, because first of all, if you don't need it, then you have enough runway to continue. You also have enough leverage to be able to negotiate with several different potential investors. But also, I mean, whether it's in good times, you don't need it, but still looking for it. And in bad times, obviously, you need it more than ever. The second one is the fact that, well, as Constantin mentioned, you're looking for investors who bring more than money to the cap table, because it's not just a question of funds, it's also a question of adding additional expertise to your team in terms of advisors, in terms of network, in terms of skills, and also in terms of geographical markets. We have someone in the US, for example, and that's very important as well. The third one is the fact that most probably you're going to need to surround yourself with different kinds of investors, at least regarding MAD, because based on the different stages of your company, where you are, let's say individual investors, what they bring is their expertise, their strong entrepreneurial skills, but also VCs, for example, the advantages is maybe they know less your market or they understand your business less, but they have the will and the capacity to follow you in your growth. So they can follow you in bigger funding rounds. So those are my key, I would say, findings in terms of this past experience. I don't know if Constantin wants to add something or if you have any questions.
Thank you for making it timely and proving me wrong. So this is good. Look, Liz, I'm going to ask you a simple question. You've gone through it. You have, so if there is, because you have probably a number of the people who are listening to us are in the process of being able to, are in the process of wanting to raise funds. And you've done it several times. If there is one mistake to avoid in this process, what would it be? If there is one, if you want red flag that you will ask them, be careful about this. What is this red flag going to be in the process that they have of wanting to raise funds?
I would say a main do and a main don't. The main do is build a solid case, because if you're not ready, then it's pointless. You're going to burn your cards going to investors. So really build a solid case. And the don't is, as you said, Constantin, we always say that really having an investor on board is like marriage. So there has to be a good fit, a good feeling. It's very important. So the investor chooses you, but you also choose your investor, or you have to make sure you're in position to be able to choose them as well. Because if you have the wrong investor on board, it's really a problem for you. It means you have internal problems, and the main asset in this kind of venture is to have a very strong team internally.
Very good. Thank you, Liz. I'm repeating, this is the opportunity for the listeners to ask their question. So if you want to ask your question, you just put it on your on the chat box and we will answer your question. So I could go on and talking with Liz for many hours. We've been doing it over the past 3 years. The important thing, you're here because you came up with some questions. So what are these questions, either to Liz or to myself? And I tell you, if I don't receive questions, I'm going to be very disappointed with BOT's selection of the candidates. So feel free to ask your questions, and the text question and answer mode has been enabled. Thank you, Maria. Good, Liz. Another question till we get the name is the oh, here we're getting. We will get the question. So maybe let me ask the question and I'll come back to you, Liz. Just 1 second. What is the name of this impact fund? There are several impact funds, Abdelwahab. So one impact fund that I've mentioned is Cedar. The Cedar is a business angel fund. This is part of IM Capital. Cedar is SEEDERS. It is part of IM Capital, that is part of Berytech. So if you want to have more information, send me a WhatsApp note and I will respond to it. So this is one. Is the second one, which is focusing on social impact, is called Impact Rise. Impact like impact and rise like rise, RISE. So this is another fund. You have a third fund called Al-Fanar. This is handled and managed by Michel Mourad. The one on Impact Rise is managed by Christelle Khalil, part of Berytech. So you have different funds available, and you're going to have more funds. We just won one. We'll be launching it next week. Actually, it's called WE4F. W is for water, E for clean energy, 4F is for agri-food business. This is another fund that will be providing grants to a number of social enterprises existing. So these are existing funds, being it Cedars, being it Impact Rise, being it Al-Fanar, being it even ISME that Liz have mentioned behind it. She managed. ISME is providing today funding capacity. This is part of Kafalat, that is a semi-government organization, and others. Okay, so this is, hope I'm answering your question, Abdul Wahab. Any more questions, feel free to come back. Any other questions? Question mode has been enabled. How specific should we go with the pitch deck? Okay, the pitch deck is your pitch deck is here. Typically, a pitch deck is not more than 15 slides. If you look at the slides that Liz have presented to you, she has it 15 slides. So you have, what do you answer? The first question is, what is the pain point that you're trying to address? Second question is, how are you going to address it? What is your product and services? Why are your product and services unique? Third slide set. How big is your market? Who are your market segments? Who are you going to sell it to? How are you going to sell it to? What is your sales and marketing strategy that you have? What are the milestones that you're going to do between now and the end of the year to be able to deliver on your forecast? What are your financial forecasts? How much money do you need? How are you going to use the money? What are the key risks that you face, and how are you going to address these face? These are the questions. Answer these questions clearly. 10 slides, 15 slides maximum. This is how you need to do. Now, if it's larger amounts, when we raise funds for Optique Vision, when we raise funds for, more than $1 million, $2 million, then we go into more details. It's not anymore an investment pitch. We call it an investment memorandum. Then we go into more details on the market, more details on the segmentation, more details on the financials, and this could be a 30, 40-page document, and this is prepared typically with a financial advisor. Alone, you'll not be able to do it. But most of the companies today in our ecosystem, it's investment pitches, and these accelerators are here to help you put it together. The hackathons, are here to help you put it together. So this is how you need to do. Depending on the audience, it could be summarized. Most of the companies that we work with, we ask them to put it on one page. And this one page contains all the answers to the question that I've raised. If you could put it in one page, it's much more difficult. It's much easier to put it in 20 pages and 30 pages, but put it in one page. It's really about the essence that you have, and these are the clear, concise answers to the question that I have raised. Okay, so Fred, I hope I'm answering your question. Any other questions? For equity fundraising, how does one go about it and avoid giving away too much equity in the process? Okay, this is a very good question. I'm going to let Liz answer it, and then I will comment after Liz on this. Liz, do you want to answer this question?
At first, it depends on which I would say which stage of your venture you are. But let's say it's the first time you're raising. The first thing you have to think is that if you're just starting, it's your team and your idea that's valued. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is how much you are ready to give away. And based on that, I mean, that's my advice. I don't know what Constantin would say, but how much you are giving away, you are willing to give away at this first stage, because it's just the first stage. So how much you need and how much you're willing to give away. It's really an opportunity. It's for us, it was a question of timing. It was very important to go very fast. And for that, for us, we wanted to make it very swift, and we knew our terms. So it helps you move quickly and swiftly.
Thank you, Liz. Look, I'm going to add to this, and I agree fully with what Liz has said. Typically, and this is my comments to all of you who are raising funds, don't start with equity funding. Always start with your own money. First, it's because nobody knows you better than you, and nobody knows your idea better than you, and money that coming from people close to you that trust you. Why? Because with this money, or from accelerators, this is grants. Focus on grants and focus on money that you could bring in. Build your MVP, minimum viable product, or your prototype. Test and validate your prototype. Once you validated your prototype and you have a few customers that are interested in yours, then you are ready to go to equity. So don't start with equity. Start with grants, start with your own money or money of people that you know. Even go to debt funding. There is debt funding available. I forgot to mention another source is LEAP that is providing debt funding. There is also EBRD that is providing funding for projects that you have. You have also LED, part of Berytech. So you have a number of funding sources available behind it. Use these funding sources. Once you have your product, once the product is tested, once you have customers, once you can prove that it is scalable, then go into equity funding. So this is, and how do you do to make sure that you are having the right valuation? Surround yourself with people who have gone through it. You know, Liz has gone through it 3 times. So she knows what it is. So find people like Liz, find people that have gone through the different phases in fundraising, and they are here to be able to recommend what valuation makes more sense for you and for your company in the state that you want to be. Liz, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I didn't mention, but we actually, during those 4 months during the pandemic, we benefited also from several grants coming from LEAP, LED, and EBRD regarding MAD. So it was the first time we looked at grants since we started, because we were looking for business. But as Constantin said, it's a very good opportunity. And for instance, for us, we're also based in France, and in France, if you want, the grants are quite important, but you have to spend time working on them. It's really worthwhile. The second thing is that when we started, we also put skin in the game. So our own time, of course, fully dedicated, the 3 of us, but also our own funds. And we also took debt from Kafalat, but traditional. So of course, if you're convinced of your project, you should move as fast and as further than you can do, as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Liz. Now, one point that is very important that Liz has mentioned, skin in the game. the more skin, and I'll tell you, she and Bruno and Rima have put a lot of skin in the game. What is skin in the game? Skin in the game is putting your own money. Skin in the game is putting your own time, 18 hours a day for several months, if not several years, without getting paid for it. All this is as if you are injecting capital into the company. So this is skin in the game. And if you are an investor and you look at people who have invested 1 year of their life with a salary maybe of, I don't know, $500 per month when they used to be paid $15,000 a month, this is skin in the game. So this shows that these founders are committed. They put their time, they put their money behind it, they put all their energy. So this is quite important, and this will help you in terms of your fundraising efforts to find investors because of the skin in the game. If there is no skin in the game and you want to be paid a big salary and you haven't invested in it, I tell you, the investor would not look at you the same way that we looked at Mad, we looked at Liz, Rima and Bruno when they approached us. Any other questions? Stephen, I hope we answered your question. Any other questions? I don't have a question, but I found it very insightful from Liz to say that we should always be thinking funds. We do not think we need it. I think it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Asil. Okay, what we do, Abdel Wahab, this program that I mentioned, W4E4F, is this way. So it's not about equity, it's really about grants. So we will be selecting these social enterprises, and we will be working with these social enterprises. We have about 100 that we need to select, and we hope to provide grant funding to a big chunk of them, and we're going to help them also raise debt to equity. And they are present. These are the small farmers. These are local renewable energy projects, and we know quite a few of these projects. These are companies focusing on waste management and water management. And there's going to be more of these initiatives coming to Lebanon. So all what I'm asking you is stay put. If you don't, be patient. These are coming, and we'll be announcing them, and we'll be organizing a competition where people could come present their ideas, and we'll select the one that we feel that we could most contribute to. So this will be, and there will be more of those coming in. So if I've shared my contact details, let me know your WhatsApp details. I'll put you on the distribution list, and we'll be able to share with you as these new trainings are coming up, as these new programs are coming up. We'll be happy to share them with you. Once nobody wants to talk to you between your 4 Fs. So once you've approached all of them, and once you have something to demonstrate. So when you want to approach business angels, you better have more than an idea. You better have put in already, you have at least some market study, you have done some prototyping, you validated your prototyping through design thinking, and we have a whole webinar on design thinking. Once you have validation from a few customers, then you approach your business angels. Don't come purely at the ideation phase. I tell you why, because your valuation is going to be very low. So once you don't have valuation, when you don't have validation from the market, it's not the right time to approach it. Okay? Hope it helps. Thanks, Fred. Okay, this is a very important question. All questions are important. In this case, you need, this is what I call design thinking. What is design thinking? Is you try your idea, you come up with a prototype, you validate this prototype with a number of what we call, it could be focus group, it could be one-on-one, it could be a market survey, but you get validation. They'll tell you what is working, what is not working. You go back to your drawing board, you do some changes, you come back to your audience. This process is design thinking. I'm a graduate of Stanford Business School. Actually, one of the best schools at Stanford is not the business school, although it's extremely highly ranked. It's the D school, for design school. And they're the one who were the first one to come up with the design thinking and convert it into a full department like a business school and like the medical school or the law school. So design thinking process is critical for you to be able to know whether your idea makes sense, your idea is addressing a real problem from customers, and I'll be happy to share the webinar with you. We've conducted it already. Thank you, Hanan. Okay, it is very difficult, Hélène, and you know how passionate Liz and I are about it. I think we need to do as much as we can. The way what I'm focusing on is I'm focusing on the ecosystem that we have for these startups, but also for small, medium-sized businesses. In our ecosystem, and I encourage you to check the Berytech.org website, you have a list of different activities. Berytech is BERYTECH.org. And you have a list of activities that we do for startups and for companies. And I've mentioned a few of those: hackathon, ideathon, accelerators, business angels, venture capital, private equity. You have advisors present, you have webinars, you have a community, several communities on agriculture, on clean technology, and on others. So these are ways that we could do. We could lobby with the government, but my feeling is I don't want to waste my time, and I want to focus on areas. So if you do a good job, and if you're close to the donors, and the donors realize that you're doing a good job, this is the best way for you to convince the donors to come and to fund. And this is what we have been doing. Every single one of these dollars that we have received is coming from donors who have seen the work that we have done and the work of others. We're not the only one. You have other entities, you have other funds being present, you have other accelerators being present. But the better a job you do, the more success stories you come up with, the more credible you'll be in front of donors. And donors like it if you have a proven track record and they are willing to put the fund and they're willing to trust you in order to be able to address these problems. I know your question is a very, very big one. So this is one element of the answer. You have hundreds of other possible answers to it. The other thing is you have to maintain faith. A lot of people are saying, and I'm receiving, Constantin, should I continue staying in this country? No matter how positive you are, how passionate you are, at one point in time you ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to raise my kids? Is this where I want to retire in this country, given what's happening in this place? And I know it, I feel it. I've been down in the streets, I've been down whenever they have these events behind it, and we're trying to consolidate. I don't want to beat our own drum, but we are trying to get together a consortium, and we're organizing a 2-day congress with a number of leaders, political leaders, very independent, not affiliated to any political parties, business leaders that are present, and trying to shape what the new Lebanon needs to be. So this is the role that we're doing beside entrepreneurship, and this you will read about it. A letter will be circulated and we'll have a number of signatures behind, and you will be aware of this, because this is how because at the essence of it is governance. If we don't have proper governance, not only at MAD level, at Liz company, not only but at the country level, if the governance is not here, if the roadmap is not clear, if the roadmap is not implemented, if we don't have a proper accountability, if we don't take measures for people who are not implementing it to take these things, our country is not going to go the right way. So governance is at the essence of it, and we are going to focus with a number of other people to make sure that we are not letting our country go down the drain the way it's heading today. So I hope I'm answering your question, Hélène.
I just had one. When you're a startup, only for SMEs, because if you're in the industry, it's not this physical industries, you're more impacted. But when you're a startup, you have to think global from the start. And so regarding MAD, it was kind of easier, not really. But the fact is that if you have geographical presence in other market, you can still maintain your operations. So it's the purpose of diversifying your risk. When there's a crisis in one country, there's no crisis in the other one. But obviously for COVID, it impacted everyone. It's just that, for instance, during the Thawda, we had 0 operations in Lebanon. Everything was completely flatline, but our teams in Lebanon were working remotely on our projects in France. So it's just to tell you that there's a way of maintaining your operations to a certain level if you're not just, dependent on Lebanon only. I know it's hard, but you have to try.
This is again a fundamental point from Liz, and she's underlining you need to make sure that your eggs are not in one basket. So what we do is we're encouraging a number of the company that we have funded to set up entities outside. B-Synchro is one example. They're now in the Middle East. Cardio Diagnostic is another example where 95% of their customers are not in Lebanon. So we have, and I could give you a number of other companies that we have funded. MAD is an example. A leg in France, a leg in Lebanon behind, and so diversify. One is because when you do this, you have less risk. The second one, if you do this, you are in a possibility to be able to, if you can export, your cost here is a fairly low cost, because especially now with what's happening with the Lebanese pound and most salaries being in Lebanese pound, so you have extremely low and competitive costs. So this devaluation is actually helping because we have great brains, great talent in the country, so we could be able to outsource and to export, call centers. A lot of these could be done in Lebanon. We speak 3 languages fluently on it. So there is a number of opportunities for Lebanese companies. And one of the programs that we have discussed with USAID and other funders is to help these companies in improving their export potential. Okay, so what Liz is saying, important. Not all your eggs in one country, not all your eggs in one, even in one product or in one customer. You have to diversify. Diversify your countries, diversify your markets, diversify your number of customers, diversify your number of suppliers. So in case one goes down or 2 goes down, you have an alternative. If not, you're exposed. So diversification is the name of the game. And the way you do it is through scenario planning and through risk management framework. And then you see what is the impact on your cash flow forecast. And this, we could help you. It's another subject that we might be with BOT providing you with. Okay, now somebody asked the question, I think it was Muhammad Ajami. So he asked about haircuts, bailing and bailout. Yes, capital control. Okay, the capital control is here to stay. As long as the country is not implementing their reforms in a sustainable way, and as long there is no company money coming into the country, we will be faced with continuous capital control, and we will be faced with a haircut. The haircut could be either a bail-in or it could be a bail-out. I don't want to go into the details of it, but if our country and our government is not implementing these reforms, there is no miracle. The Lebanese pound, you cannot ask for, the Ministry of Interior to go and to monitor all the people who are a black market. A black market is a black market. It will not be monitored. You could put people in jail for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but the reality, if your currency is not protected, this currency will not be able to sustain, and you will go to the 7,000 or the 10,000 behind it. So it's not the policeman that is stopping the people that will stop this. So what will happen? It will happen is that the reality is that if these banks are not in a position to get the injection in terms of capital, they will take the capital from the depositor. And these depositors are going to see part of their deposits being transferred into equity, and they become shareholders in the different companies. So the haircut will take place. It's actually already taking place, because you cannot withdraw your money in dollars. You could only withdraw it in Lebanese pound at a rate which is either 1,500 or 3,000, which is much below the market rate. So this is a haircut. So the haircut is here, and the capital control are here, and they will continue to be here, and you'll see it even in a bleaker way. So this is unfortunate, but it's the reality. Unless the government is implementing their reform, unless they're doing it in a sustainable way, unless they have clear accountability, we will be faced in a very dangerous situation. Okay, I don't want to get into politics. Mustafa, thank you for asking the question. Any others? We reach our time. We need to call it. Mustafa, how can entrepreneurs benefit from funds in their account to cover operation? Okay, we'll cover it on a one-to-one basis, Mustafa. Any final questions before we close? Okay, look, if we, I'm going to close by thanking all of you for being present, apologizing for my being a bit too direct. This is the way I communicate. Some of you know me. On it, I want to thank Liz for taking the time, for sharing with us. Liz is a very, very beautiful entrepreneur, because I tell you, I've seen how she went through the ups and the downs that comes in, and the resilience that she has, the persistence that she has, the ability to adapt to all different situations is a clear example of what we want these entrepreneurs to be. So she's really, and I'm sure she's going to be successful. If you want to meet with her, she is going to be here at the end of the month for 5 weeks. Feel free to reach out to her on it. I want to thank BOT and the whole team, so Maria, Charbel, and the team, for allowing us to share this with you. And we look forward to seeing many of you in the future events. All the best to you. Thank you, Maria. Maria, do you want to say a few words to close in, or any comments?
أنا بس قبل كمان بدي أقول لك بدي اقول لك ميرسي كثير على وقتك، وميرسي لكل العالم اللي حضروا. Thank you so much for this valuable session. بعتقد كل العالم استفادت منك كثير، ومثل ما صار لك زمان you're coaching us and you're coaching the startups. بعتقد كل العالم اللي حضرونا اليوم قدروا ياخذوا شوي من هيدي الخبره اللي انت صار لك زمان كثير بتوزعها. So Liz, thank you so much again for joining today and for sharing your experience مع كل العالم اللي حاضرين. I wish you all the best in MAD. مع انه obviously based على شهادة Mr. Constantin, you don't need luck. You're working hard for it, as should everyone else. Nothing comes easy in life, and you're the best example of it. ميرسي كتير لاثنيناتكم على وقتكم، ولكل العالم اللي عم تحضرنا ميرسي كتير من BOT لأنكم شاركتوا معنا. I hope we've been able to bring you some value with the Big Ask campaign initiative to support young entrepreneurs بلبنان to make it through this crisis قد ما فينا as much as possible. Thank you so much. Liz, يمكن كلمة إذا بعد عندك شيء من Berytech.
I just wanted to thank everyone ونقول إنه at the end of the day resilience is really the key word for all Lebanese. يعني it's obviously it's unbelievable times for all of us, so it's definitely not easy, but we know and we can make it. You just have to, in French we say serrer les fesses, and you have to hold on tight for a while. And I know it's been hard for all of us, but we have to keep on going, because if you stay in the game, you will be there when it gets lighter. So tough times ahead, but the tunnel is just a tunnel. So thanks again.
Thank you, Liz.
Bye. الله يعطيكم العافية.
Thank you.